So, very good morning and welcome back to the broncolor studio. My name is Urs Recher and I have the pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of our webinars. This is number 5. We ran 4 successful webinars already. Number 5 is about power pack versus monolights. So, at the broncolor world, this means Scoro E and S, and Zeros S and L. Today's webinar is in 3 blocks. First of all, I will talk about the essentials, so power, max power, power of the system, asymmetry, stuff like that. Second, in the middle, the heavy stuff, technical aspects, flash duration, color temperature, control, and so on and so on, sequences, special features that the 2 systems might offer. And then in the third part, I will talk more about practical aspects such as portability, sizes of setup, compatibility with light shapers, and so on. Between these blocks, I will always go over to the laptop and have a look if you have any questions about this. If you have a question that's not answered today because maybe it's not showing up on my screen or I don't have the time to answer it, remember that we do not only have the webinars on Wednesdays, but as well we have the Q&A on Friday afternoon. So the Q&A in Instagram Live is at 2 p.m. Swiss time Friday afternoon. So if you want to have a casual chat with me and some other broncolor friends, tune in on Instagram. Right, so as I said, today, power pack, maybe not versus monolights or zeros, but and. So what's the best choice? Should you go with power packs? Should you go with monolights? Should you mix them? And to bring everyone on the same level, I just want to make sure that you know what's the difference between the 2. So let's start with monolights. As I said, in broncolor we call them zeros. This is a zeros S maybe for studio, and then we have a L as well, which is still hidden. L is maybe for location, or L for lithium, which means it's battery operated pack, or not pack, unit. How does this work? Let's take the reflector away. So the back of the zeros, there we have capacitors, then we have here some electronics, and actually maybe the most important part, the flash tube, the modeling light, that actually converts the energy into light. Okay, so that's all, it's compact. Sometimes we call it as well compact unit, now it's monolights officially. So it's all in one. If you plug it in, so we need a cable. Cables are here. So we need a cable to actually run this, but we are ready to go with this equipment. Monolight, cable, and it already flashes. So I just put this one back on. And we want to compare this with a power pack. The power pack is, if you compare it, that's just this part. Okay, so capacitors, electronics, but no lights. Okay, so this one alone, we cannot compare it because it doesn't bring anything. It's not giving any lights. So that's why we have actually to make a fair comparison. At least we have to show a lamp head. So we do it like that. Okay, so now it makes sense to have a look at this system compared to that system. I'm using today a cheat sheet because I don't want to forget any of the aspects. So once in a while you will see me looking at the script because I really would like to give you all the answers. Talking about answers, I cannot answer the question for you. What's the best for you? Power packs, monolights, combination of the 2, but I can ask you, or I can give you all the questions you have to ask yourself to come up with the right decision. And I already can tell you now there is no wrong decision because you're entering the best lighting system in the world. And we will see that they are as well, in a way, compatible. So if you start with zeros, you can continue with Scoro or vice versa. So there's not a wrong decision, but I will give you many, many different parameters or questions you have to ask yourself to come up with the best choice for you to enter the world of broncolor. Okay, so most basic, power. SCORO comes in 4 versions. The first differentiation is the power. So this is a 1600 joules or 1600 watt seconds power pack. And there is as well the same, this is a SCORO S, and the same comes as well a little higher as a SCORO S 3200 joules. 1600 joules, 3200 joules, that's just one more f-stop. So it's just basically double the power. The lowest possible power, they both start at about 3 joules, and then this one goes up to 1600, while the big one goes up to 3200. I have it around the corner, so let me show it to you very quickly. I will take it off the table later on, that we have more space. So that's the size difference. Okay, that's one f-stop in between. All right, good, put this one away. So we have, as I said, if you connect one light, you have a total power of 1600 or 3200 joules. On the Zeros, we have Zeros S and L, both at the versions 400 joules or 800 joules. So compare small and small, 400 to 1600. That's, let's say, 400, 800, 1600. So this is, we can double the power twice. So this means that between these two lights, we have 2 f-stops of difference. So we have 2 more f-stops power available from the SCORO. And on the, if you go to the higher level, if you compare 800 with 3200, it's exactly the same. And 2 f-stops, that's quite something. Okay, maybe not in the studio, maybe in the studio. I can always cheat a little bit, you know, I can go up with the sensitivity. Maybe you have one of these beautiful new mirrorless cameras or DSLRs with the beautiful lenses. You can open to, I don't know what, 1.4. So maybe in the studio, light shaping is more important than the power. So the light quality is more important than the light quantity. But as soon as you open the door of the studio and go outside, the sun is always the same. So if you want to work with ambient light, even just a window in the background or in the sun, even outside in the shadow, then you need power. So yes, there is a justification for the 2 extra stops, maybe even the 3 extra stops on a SCORO 3200. Right. So this is about the max power per light. So if you're happy to work with one light only, let's say a softbox or outside a para, there's definitely more option. You have more power working with a SCORO. But 1, 2, 3 outlets. Okay, I would like to compare not only this versus that, because most of the time, or me personally, I almost never work with one light and that's it. Okay, I prefer to work maybe with a main light, with a fill-in light, with something in the background, effects light, and so on and so on. So one light is, it's very, very, very little. Some jobs you can do with one light only, but most of the time you end up with several lights. And that we have a fair comparison, I would like to compare 3-light system with a 3-light system. So let's fill up the table. What do we need here? We need more lights. And to show you that we can actually compare, that we can use several lights on a SCORO, I will not add more pulsar Gs. I will add a Unilight, and I also prepared a Picolight, one of my favorite babies here. So we have a SCORO, 3 lights. There's the cable missing. I really want to have the 2 sets complete, that we compare apples and apples, and not apples and pears. So this is ready to go. Cable, SCORO, 3 lights. No light shapers. Light shapers we talk about later. Here I would like to have 3 lights as well. So we set this up like that. This one comes here. So I hope, let me check the picture a little bit. Yeah, okay. And what I am showing here is Zeros S, Zeros S, Zeros L. So this one is one with battery. I can already show it to you now. So the same unit, but with a battery. So that's why I add only 2 cables. So now we are fair. Okay, now we can compare the 2 systems, because I have 2 systems with 3 lights each. And let's have another look at the power. Here, the 1600 joule, that's not 1600, 1600, 1600. That's 1600 in total. Okay. However, on the zero side, I can of course add it up. So let's say 400, 400, 400. So we have 1200 joules here, 1600 joules here. It's still more. Okay. But the 1600, I have to share it between the outlets. So now we have 1200 versus 1600. That's about 1/3 of an f-stop. So if we compare 3 light setups with a 3 light setup, the difference is 1/3 of an f-stop. It's not that dramatic as before that we have actually 2 full f-stops or a factor 3 power-wise in between the 2 f-stops. So I get power-wise very close with this setup to that setup. Right. Yes, that's very important that we actually compare it like this. Power range. It's not always about full power. I just said before that sometimes you want to work in the studio, you want to work with low power settings because you will probably have a softbox or any light shaper super close, and at the same time you would like to open your aperture. So it's very important that we do not only have a lot of power, that from the same unit we have as well very little power. So not only power is essential, but for me as a user, power range is much more important. Let's have a look at the power ranges of the 2 systems. We have here a power range of 9 f-stops. So in total numbers, let me cheat quickly. This goes from 3 joules up to 1600 joules. Okay, this is a 9 f-stop. If you calculate, this is 9 f-stops. The big one, the 3200, has even 10 f-stops of power range. It as well starts on 3 and then goes up to 3200. So really immense power range, a power factor of 1000, imagine. 3 joules all the way up to 3200 joules. And every flash tube, we can talk about ring flash, we can talk about pico lights, maybe not the pico light with 3200, but the normal lamp heads, the flash tubes, they can deal with 3 joules and they can deal with 3200 joules. That's just amazing. This means that I put my lights wherever I want them in the studio, and I just dial here up and down with the power until the power pack does what I want it to do. Okay, so power range, huge. 9 or 10 f-stops, depending if we are working with the 1600 or the 3200. How is it here? Max power is 10, depending, this 10 could be 800 joules or 400 joules, and then they go down 8 f-stops. So we have here a 8 f-stop power range, and both lights, also both categories, the 800s and the 400s, they have the same power range. So they both go from 10 down to 2. But there is a trick. If you combine not only 400s in your system, but if you combine 400s and 800s, you can extend your power range in the studio by 1 f-stop. So let's say one goes from 800 joules down to 3 joules, and the other one goes from 400 joules down to 1.5 joules. But if you look at the system, that's what we do here. We have from 1.5 joules all the way up to 800 joules. And this means that the complete system of 3 zeros, if you mix 800 and 400, you have 9 f-stops of power range. Here you have 9 f-stops of power range. On the 3200, you have 10 f-stops of power range. Don't underestimate low power. Okay, don't only compare the max power. Have as well always if you are thinking about purchasing new equipment, have as well a look at the other side. How much can I open my aperture in the studio? Can I actually shoot with my beautiful lens at 1.4? Can I shoot a portrait when the softbox is here with broncolor? There's clear. The answer is yes. You put the position of the light is a creative decision. It's not a technical decision. It's a creative decision. If we talked about this in an earlier seminar, if you move a softbox around, this does change the power, but the light looks completely different. So the position of a light is given. You choose. It's not a creative decision. You choose the aperture you want, and then you just press buttons until the light is doing what you want it to do. So, as I said, power range is, in my eyes, more important than max power. All right, good. Let me fix the mic. Asymmetry. We do not need, almost never, we need the same power on all the three outlets or on all the three lights. Most of the time you have a main light, which is a little stronger, or we have a very weak light shaper far away where we need a lot of light. On the other hand, we might have a very strong light shaper, like, I don't know, a normal reflector, a P70, very close. So we have to make sure that we can work with asymmetry. Let's start for once. We start here. Zeros, the monolights, they do not have asymmetry because they are independent units. If we look at the system, however, we can still call it asymmetry. I can have one light on power 10 and the other one on power 2. It's in a way, it's like an asymmetry in the system, but these are independent lights. So I just want to make sure that you understand the difference. It's not an asymmetry. I have independent units. But this means that the entire power range, I explained this before, 8 or 9 f-stops can be used as asymmetry. The entire power range is color corrected. So here we have these 8 or 9 f-stops, asymmetry, and perfect color corrected. Let's have a look at the other system. I just remembered something. All the arguments, all the questions I'm asking you today, I will summarize this in the end, by the way. I prepared a small PowerPoint presentation just to summarize it, because I will talk, as you know me, I will talk a lot. I will talk probably too much. So at the end, I will summarize everything on 3 slides. Okay, we have been talking about asymmetry. The entire power range here can be used as asymmetry. So you can have outlet number 1 on 10. No, not on 10, because then there's nothing left for the rest. You can have one outlet on 9.9 and the other one on 1. Okay, so the entire power range can be used for asymmetry, but 3 f-stops only up to 3 f-stops are color corrected. If you have a crazy asymmetry, which is higher than 3 f-stops, you might have a little bit of a color temperature shift at the lower setting. Okay, so this might be a little bit of an advantage for the monolights. But honestly, 8 f-stops, no, not 8 f-stops, 3 f-stops, that's a factor 8 between the lights. So one light is 8 times stronger than the other one, which means it's in most of the time that's sufficient. Let's say if we have an indirect light over a wall that's very far away and the second light very close, then you need more asymmetry than just 3 f-stops. But for any average, normal, daily use in the studio, this color-corrected asymmetry that we offer you with the Scorer Power Packs is by far sufficient for all kind of studio work. Right. Good. These are the basics. What are the essentials? So I will go over there and check if there are any questions, and then we go on with the more technical aspects. Yes, we have 2 questions. Okay, what is the capacity of the light that plug-in power pack? If they low, I can't understand how to power up these lights. I don't know if I understand the question properly. I don't know if you see this. So we have 1, 2, 3 outlets, and per outlet I have a power adjustment. Okay, so let me bring this a little closer. Okay, something like this. I hope you see it. Okay, so on I don't want to drop it actually. So outlet 1, 2, 3, and then we have here actually 4 power adjustments. Outlet number 1 obviously goes to, adjustment number 1 goes to outlet number 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. Absolutely free. So you choose the power you want. So with these buttons, you adjust asymmetry. And then if you would like to have the entire set a little brighter or the entire set a little darker, you go with the master. Okay, so you can take everything a little brighter, everything a little darker. But it's super, super straightforward. So if you want it brighter, flash up. If you want it darker, flash down. You can do this in full f-stop steps or just in very tiny increments of a 1/10 of an f-stop. So super, super precise power adjustment over the entire power range. This was question number 1. Super straightforward. Okay, another question just dropped in. Scoro E versus Scoro S. What's the difference? The difference is Scoro S has 3 outlets, has 9 f-stops of power range, and many possibilities. You will see this later on as well when I talk about the technical thing and when I make the summary in the end. And lots of possibilities to program it with interval, with sequences, with stroboscopic effects. I have a manual adjustment of the color temperature, and so on and so on. And on the Scoro E, I have 2 outlets only. I have 2 f-stops less of power range. And by the way, these 2 f-stops that are missing are cut at the lower end. So they have the same max power. And I have less possibilities to program the power pack with special features, as I said, stroboscopic effect, color temperature adjustments. However, there is no compromise made in light quality. The color is just as perfect as with the Scoro S and as constant as with the Scoro S. The power is as high as with the Scoro S. So it's just limitations in advanced use, like programming and the very, very low power. But the light quality, there's no difference. We don't make any compromise regarding the light quality. And of course, last but not least, the price. Of course, this is well a difference. So if you say, I don't need all the fancy possibility to program it, I just need 2 lights, maybe even only 1 light, and just a straightforward, then Scoro E is definitely an option for you. I will mention this several times today. If it's not absolutely clear after this long talk today, just contact your local dealer. He or she will be very happy to come to your studio to bring the 2 units to discuss with you about the options you have and to find out the best possible solution for you. Okay, somebody owns a mobilette. Can it be used on the Scoro? Yes, it can be used on the Scoro, but you will not have modeling light. So the lights are compatible regarding the flash. Make sure that you do not overcharge the mobilette because it has a 1200 joules flash tube. So don't work on power 10 on the 1600 because you will overcharge it with 400 joules, and especially on the big one, you will heavily overcharge it. So, but yes, it is compatible regarding the flash, but you will not have a modeling light with it. So we have a long question, the last one for this short session here. Okay. Yes, okay. Talk about power packs. Somebody wants to have more detailed information about the Move Pack. So I already started a little bit. The Move Pack is a 1200 joule pack, and it has a battery. So it's maybe the battery option on power pack side. However, it's not like the Scoro. Flash duration wise, I was asked, the Move goes up to or down to, however you want to see it, to 8,500 of a second. So super short, 8,500. That's even shorter than the shortest shutter speed on your cameras. Scoro goes to 10,000 of a second. Yes, it is faster. No, it's not a big step. Okay, so if you don't get it sharp with 8,500 of a second, you will not get it sharp with a Scoro either. It's not even a factor 2 in between. So they are absolutely the same regarding flash duration. Of course, recycling time. This one with a heavy cable. Where did I put the cable? Anyway, here it is. With quite a heavy cable with a special plug, we can pull an unbelievable amount of energy out of the wall to recycle this in no time. We'll talk about the recycling time later on. And of course, the Move is still an unbelievably fast battery-operated power pack, but of course, no comparison to this one. So it takes much more time to have the next flash ready to go. Move has 2 outlets. They are completely asymmetrical as well, so we choose freely the power of the 2 outlets. And I think these are the main differences. It would be going a little bit too far to say that Move is a battery-operated scorer. I would not sign this. There are some restrictions. As I said, with sequences, short intervals, recycling time, and so on and so on. But again, perfectly controlled color, very constant power outlet, and wide power range. ECTC, so perfect color temperature control over the entire power range. So it's a fully equipped, highest quality power pack from broncolor. Again, we don't make any compromise if it's power pack or a monolight or a battery operated pack. The light is always 2 thumbs up. All right, good. Okay. Yes, I mean, you can, of course, take the power pack as well out of the studio. But here you meet either you have you're close to a power outlet, you can use a cable roll, or you have to bring a generator somehow. But of course, you can take this one out of the studio as well. It's just some planning, some logistics have to be solved before. Good. Let's leave the questions for that. Yes, there it's empty anyway, and let's go on with some tech talk. Flash duration. That's most probably the first question that would arise. How short are these flashes? Can I freeze stances? Can I shoot splashes with this? So let's compare this. And the first one I will compare is the shortest possible flash duration of the two systems. Ceros S and Ceros L, they have the shortest flash duration of a 9,000th of a second. That's crazy. Talking about flash duration, I'm always talking about TO1. Maybe you joined me in the earlier webinar when I was, let's say the last one 3 weeks ago. I was breaking glasses here in the studio and everything was perfectly frozen. This was shot with a 10,000th of a second. These have a 9,000th of a second. So as well, extremely short from a monolight. So yeah, again, shorter than your shortest shutter speed on the camera. 9,000th of a second here, 10,000th of a second here. That's not the big story, okay? Because it's, again, if you don't get it sharp with a 9,000th of a second, you will have problems as well. With a 10,000th of a second, I would rather go with and change other parameters in my set. But it becomes much more important and much more fun if we have a look at what power do I get short flash durations. Because if you want to freeze something like a dancer on the stage or a breaking glass, you need not only a short flash duration, but you need as well a certain depth of field. You cannot always shoot these things with at minimum setting, but maybe you would like to close down to 5.6, 8, 11, depending on your camera. So let's have a look. What happens to the flash duration if I go up with the power? And just as an example, I took 60 joules, 60 joules, which is for sure in studio environment by far enough to shoot a still life on a table, even a portrait with wind in the hair at a reasonable f-stop like 11, 11.5, so probably no issues with depth of field. And if I work with 60 joules, 60, I have a 4,000th of a second here. So it's still short, but it's already a little longer, 4,000th of a second here, and still 10,000th of a second here. And now it's more than a factor 2 in between, okay? When do I need this? So especially, let's say we have as well maybe to talk about cameras. So if I do such a splash shot with a DSLR camera or a small mirrorless camera, maybe I have enough depth of field here with a reduced power. However, if I work with medium format, if I go a little closer to the object, and then I would, of course, be happy maybe to close down to 11, 11.5 even. And then I'm very happy that this power pack gives me more light. Just the quantity of light is more in the same crazy short amount of time. Okay, so this is the more important comparison for me. Don't compare minimum and minimum because maybe it gives you just the too little power. So compare it on an average working level. I just took 60 joules now here. So compare maybe as well 100 joules and 100 joules. Ask your local distributor what flash duration do I get, because this is much more important than having the shortest possible number. All right, so let's talk about speed. And I would like to talk about speed twice because, for example, the scorer has a function that's called speed, as well as the zeros has as well a function called speed, but they are different. On the scorer, speed is color corrected. So it optimizes the power pack differently. It gives you shorter recycling time and it gives you shorter flash durations, but the color remains constant. So you can go up and down with the power. You can work with different asymmetries. The flash duration is not the shortest possible. This we would call TO1 minimum. So it's, let's say, TO1 reduced. So it's just optimizing the power pack differently for recycling time and for shorter flash durations, maintaining the constancy in color. So this is speed here. However, on the zero side, speed is nothing else than a TO1 minimum. So speed here reduces the flash duration to the shortest possible. And this means that the zeros in this situation does not care too much about color anymore. The priority is 100% on short flash durations. So if you work on speed here, it's not, depends on the asymmetry, of course, in between the lights. It's not always color corrected. So you will have to have a very close look at the color. Maybe, of course, you can solve the problem with a new gray balance. Okay, that's not a big issue. But you have to be aware that if you work on speed here, you have to take care on the color. However, here, the power pack solves all the problems for you because it's still perfectly color corrected here. So this is about the speed function. Let's talk about speed. How fast can I shoot? Action photography, you would like to take a lot of pictures in no time. And again, here I would not like to compare the lowest possible recycling time. This is, of course, marketing-wise, the time that works best because it's 200 of a second, 300 of a second. Do I have a camera that takes a picture every 200 of a second? I don't have one. Okay, so for me, much more important is again the other question. At a normal power level, how fast can I shoot? And let's compare this here at, let's say, rather high at full power. So at 800 joule zeros at full power takes me 1.9 seconds. So this one, if it's 800, this is a 400. So if it's 800, full power, completely empty, full power, completely empty, 1.9 seconds. Still okay. I mean, this is like 30 pictures in one minute. Here, let me cheat. It's 0.4 seconds. Okay, that's crazy. This is like 5 pictures in 2 seconds. Okay, at 800 joules. That's a light quantity that competes against the sun. So you can have a mountain biker jumping in front of the sun and even overexpose against the sun with 800 joules. And this every 0.4 seconds. So like 2.5 flashes in average, 2.5 flashes per second at the same power like a zeros on full power. That's crazy. Okay. So if speed is important for you, if you are an action photographer, if let's say you get the scene, the athlete makes this scene for you only 3 or 4 times, you want to take as many pictures as possible, then that's the one. That's in this situation, it's the only choice for you. Of course, you can take the same picture with this, but only once. Okay, let's say a high jump. You have to press the button at the right moment. If you miss it, you're done. Okay, here you can make tack, 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 tack. And you most probably, if you're not very unlucky, you get the right shot. So 800 joules every 0.4 seconds. Talking about full power, if you go here in speed mode on full power, it has a recycling time of 0.6 seconds. Still, yeah, maybe just half a second. So still 2 flashes per second at full power on speed mode. That's just crazy. That's amazing. Good. So this was speed. Comparing the speed functions that are slightly different and the recycling time, especially at full power, the difference is quite essential. heavy use. Can I work industrially with these? What is heavy use? Where does it start? As an example, I didn't calculate, but I just took 1,000 flashes, 1,000 photographs a day. This means that every minute we take 2 photographs on an 8 days day. So in average, of course, maybe bam, 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 you shoot a little bit more, then you have a coffee, and then you shoot a little bit more. But let's say compare 1,000 photographs with zeros and 1,000 photographs per day with a Scoro. They're both cool about it, 100%. They don't even get warm or sweaty. The thermo is not a problem. So they are both heavy duty. This one is extremely heavy duty. So if you're talking, let's say, about e-commerce application, you have maybe several models that are rotating. The f-stop, not the f-stop, the setup remains the same. You have bam, 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 one model after another. In 1 minute, you take of every model, you take like 30 pictures, next. And like this, you go on all day, all week, all year. Go for Scoro in this situation, 100%. This is heavy duty, and this is extremely, okay? I mean, I'm shooting for many years. I love these guys. I never pushed them to the limit. They never went into thermal, but maybe some of you know how I work. I take a photograph, then I look at the picture, I change a little bit, then I take another photograph, I fine-tune my light, then at the end maybe I take 20 shots, and then the next one. You will never push a zeros to the limit like this, okay? But as I said, this kind of e-commerce applications, these thousands and 10,000s of photographs every day, all year, then we definitely recommend that you go for Scoro. Why? We have more capacitors that are sharing the stress of the shooting. Okay, so here we have, obviously less capacitors, so they are fully charged, empty, full, empty, full, empty, so they are heating up. Here we have more capacitors. Even when you work at low power settings, we always use all the capacitors. So the stress per capacitor is heavily reduced. The flash tubes are more heavy duty as well on the corresponding lights. Again, don't underestimate these. They are good, but for heavy use, they are tougher. And exactly, and here on the Scoro as well, we have an advanced cooling procedure. Okay, so it tells you maybe just with a few, I think it's the 20 seconds break. Hey, you're shooting too fast, I need a little break. So it's really just the 20 seconds. I think it's maybe even 15 seconds. So basically just enough time for you to check the aperture on the camera, to have a quick talk to the stylist, whatever, and then you're ready again to shoot like crazy. And then there's a longer thermal break that really tells you again, you have to work a little more slowly. I never experienced this here. Only in the lab I saw it once, because we had it really on full power, bam, 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 during hours. In any normal working conditions, this one doesn't stop. It just goes on and on and on and on, as well as the corresponding lamp heads. You don't get this one tired. Okay, good. I think, yes, I would like to, as we're talking about the technical things, I would like to compare as well quickly the advanced settings, let's say the possibilities to program the two systems. So similarities, what do we have on the zero side as well as on the Scoro side? They both can be delayed, so not that the picture is not exposed when I press the button, but a little later. They both can have a sequence, multiple exposures, bam, 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 for stroboscopic effects, whatever. Of course, the interval is limited by the recycling time. We cannot fire a new flash until there's enough energy. And this means that this one, of course, offers you much faster interval times. Interval is the time between two flashes of a sequence. They both offer the free mask and alternate. I covered this earlier as well, special functions. Both systems have absolutely controlled constant color over the entire power range, and we talked about the differences regarding asymmetry. Flash duration control, yes, I can have here flash duration control by going into speed mode. So I have the flash duration optimized for perfect color reproduction, or I can optimize as well the zeros for shortest possible flashes. Then I know that I get a slightly different color, which is slightly a little bit more blue. Of course, I can do this here as well. Additionally, here I can make calibrated steps of plus minus 200 Kelvin. So on purpose, I can say, okay, I would like to have the light, I want the light to be a little bit colder or a little bit warmer. This is a feature that we do not have on the zeros. Speed function is a difference between the two. I explained this before. Here, speed is color corrected. It's just a TO1 reduced. However, here, speed is not color corrected. If I have beautiful setups that I would like to recycle, I can store up to 8 different setups here in the Power Pack. And the Power Pack talks to me in almost any language I want. It talks 11 languages to me. And the most important thing, I could easily learn what's a delay, what's an interval, what's a sequence in English. But there's a help button. And every function that the Power Pack has, if you press the help function, it explains you here on the display, it explains you what this function does. And it does this in 11 different languages. It does it in Chinese, in Japanese, in Indonesian, and so on and so on. Just naming a couple of languages that are probably listening to this right now. Okay, 11 languages, very important, help button. This means that the manual, the operation manual is kind of integrated. Very, very nice feature. Both systems are controllable with the Bron Control app, either on the cell phone or from a tablet or from desktop. So they are completely integrated. Of course, you can mix them as well within in the same setup, and you still have individual control about all the lights with Bron Control app. Which means this was the end of the tech talk. Let me check on the questions. Okay. Flash duration changes over the power range. Yes, it does. How do we get short flash durations? We cut the end of the flash. Okay, so the flash curve has a lot of light at the beginning, and then the intensity drops. So by reducing the voltage in the power packs and by cutting the flash a little bit earlier or later, we can maintain the color constant. So we are always calculating the best voltage versus the best duration, and to keep the color constant. But now if you work at very high power, we cannot modify the voltage inside the capacitors, because we need them fully charged, and we need the entire time as well to bring the energy out. So at high power, the flash duration is pretty much given, but I have to check the data sheet for this. Okay, but as soon as you start reducing it, we can lower the voltage a little bit and cut the flash a little bit, and then we can of course play. We can play voltage versus flash duration. So in a crazy, let's say in a TO1 minimum situation, we still keep the capacitors fully charged and we cut as early as possible. And this is the reason for the blue shift. Okay, but the more we reduce the power, the more we can actually play between flash duration and voltage. That's why the lower we go, the faster we become, and the more flexibility we have. Okay, how's the weather sealing on a Scoro S? I want to give you the same, the safe answer. There is no weather sealing. Okay, no weather sealing. If it rains, cover it up. It's not rain protected. It's, yeah, no weather sealing here. You have to find another solution. Keep it dry. The cable can of course be a little bit wet. If you just put it on a wet floor, in wet grass, but not the connections, not the power pack, not the lamp head. Keep your stuff dry, please. Good. Question is empty, so let's go for the last one. Again, a little bit less technical, I hope, so it would be more easily to understand. let's say you work with these 3 lights, and then half a year later, I need 1 more light. Okay. Obviously, both systems, you can upgrade both systems. Here you can buy a 4th light. Here you can buy a new power pack and a new lamp head. That's of course the obvious thing. But you heard before about the technical data regarding color consistency, short flash durations, power range. You can easily, if you start with a Scoro, you add up with a zeros, because you need 1 more light for the background, or you would like to have a general fill-in light, something indirectly. So yes, you can in a way see a zeros, because it has such a high light quality, like as a 4th outlet, supplementary outlet on a Scoro. On the other hand, if you start with zeros and said, okay, that's fantastic, but I would like to use special lamp heads, such as a ring flash, pico light, what's there, light bars, strip lights, light pipes, and so on and so on. Of course, you can always extend as well your starter kit with zeros, with a power pack later on. The bayonet, so that the mounting of light shapers is exactly the same on the zeros as well as on the lamp heads that are for the Scoro. So there it's actually, that's not a one-way road. You start with Scoro, you can add up another Scoro later on, or of course you can add up as well more lights with zeros if it's just about 1 more light. And on the zeros, it's obvious that you can just add a 4 zeros, you can add up the power, you have exactly the same lights, but of course you can extend as well your equipment with special lights. You work with the zeros, with normal reflectors, with paras, with softboxes and so on. And then for the fancy light shapers, the effect lights, you take a Scoro. So this is not a one-way road. The 2 systems can very, very nicely work together. There's, as I said, I have to mention it once again, there's no compromise. Never, ever we make any compromise in light quality. Okay, light shapers. So how can I shape the light with the zeros, and how can I shape the light with a Scoro system? There, instead of naming thousands of light shapers, I just would like to share 2 now I pressed the wrong button, sorry. I would like to share 2 slides with you. So if we have a look at this slide here. So you see on top, what's green are the Scoros. The only thing that's left white are the zeros. In the end, I could have made them green as well, because as I just said, you can easily combine as well Scoro and the lamp heads. You can extend the setup with zeros. But with the Scoro, the power pack, very simple, everything works. Okay, compatibility is just 100%. Let's have a look. What is the limitation? What are the limitations if I decide to work with the zero system? So now, again, the power packs on the very top left could be, there are 2 power packs on that are not sold anymore. Sorry for that, small mistake. And it's still a lot is green. So what is green? All open reflectors are green. So P70, 65s, narrow angle reflectors, beauty dishes, P-soft reflectors, all the paras are green, synchronization is green, softboxes are green, grids, umbrellas, balloons, light pipes. So I would still say it's an amazing choice of light shapes that I have. I would not feel limited. Then there are a few that are yellow. They are yellow because they actually work from a mechanical point of view. They work. I'm talking, let's say, about the PAR reflector, the projecting attachment, and the fluter on the top right. So these yellow lights, they work, but the illumination is not perfect, because these are all optical systems, like the projecting attachment or the fluter. These are lens systems, so these are optical systems, and they actually produce nothing else than a picture of my light source. Now the protecting glass of the zeros is like a more rectangular, So it's not as evenly illuminated as the round protecting glasses of the bigger lamp heads like Pulsar G and Unilight. So yes, they can be used, but within some restrictions that I have to accept a certain unevenness in illumination. But of course, sometimes this is even welcome because you get a nice lighting effect. If you, for example, use the power reflector because it's so powerful for indirect lighting, of course, there's no restriction there. But you just have to be a little bit more careful if you want to combine zeros with optical systems, or I call them aggressive reflectors like the power reflector. And what's yellow as well is the Pico light. This just as a representative for all the effect lights. So I love the Pico light, especially with all the accessories, projecting attachment, Fresnel, and so on. Ring flash is a great tool. I love the light bars and so on, Pulsar Spot 4. So all these lights, these are effect lights or special light shapers. They cannot be used with zeros. That's, from a creative point of view, the biggest limitation if you go for zeros, because yeah, as I said, for the fancy stuff or for the, let's say, food photography or watches photography, I would like to work with the Pico light to control the light almost like pixel wise. You can control it with this Pico light, and there, of course, I have to accept a couple of limitations, light shaping wise, light control wise, when I go with the zeros. All right, good. We are back here. So, size of setup. These cables here, they are 5 meters long. Okay, which means they, of course, should not be like a cable car, be all straight to the light, to the lamp head. So, if I do not use extension cables, the setup of a Scoro is limited to 4 meters, 4 meters. So, everything in a circle of around 8 meters, or with a radius of 4 meters around the Scoro. That's my Scoro setup. In this studio, no problem. On location, if I shoot interiors of a church, I probably would be happy to have the second light like 20 meters further away. On the Scoro, yes, there is a solution. There are extension cables. They absorb a little bit of power, of course, but you can actually forget about this. It's like a quarter of an f-stop, something like this. Unless you don't wind it up, don't twist extension cables, don't twist any cables when they are in use. So this is a no-go. Okay, like you probably know this from a cable roll, so never twist cables. You lose a lot of power like this and other unpleasant effects. So if the setup is, let's say, bigger than 8 meters in total, extension cables needed here. On the zeros, no limitations. I mean, just radio triggering. So if you want to trigger it from the camera, the only limitation is the signal from the RFS trigger. And of course, here we have, especially outdoors, where we work with big setups, we have a reach of 50 meters. So 50 meters in this direction, 50 meters in the other direction. So we have here a setup size of 100 meters. Okay. Again, here I prepared 2 slides for this as well. BTS first. So you might know these 2 strange guys here. The one with no hair explaining what he's doing here on this crazy location. And one light he set up here. Okay, oh, you don't see it. Okay, but I put the yellow flash there. So far away, behind all the metallic things, there is another Cirrus L, far away to illuminate the blue caterpillar. I don't know what's the word in English, the blue thing back there. Huh? So very, also not surprisingly, but very reliably, this fired, even going through with a radio signal, going over this metal, very reliably, we could fire the Cirrus L that was, I don't know, 40, 50 meters far away. So this is definitely one of the big advantages of the Cirrus kit, because you really put your light where you want them, and you don't have to, in this situation, to deal with 4 extension cables. Just to see what Carl did here, I would like to show you as well the final So now you can see a little bit of the light. He just gave a little bit of help that we see the blue of this vehicle in the back. And this is really, as I said, a huge advantage of these Cirrus light, that you can put them wherever you want. Of course, these are Cirrus Ls, which has no cable. So no extension cable, no power cable, just put the light with the battery wherever you want it. And even with all the metal in between, radio triggering was super, super reliable. Talking about the battery, yeah, I mentioned it several times. It's exactly the same light. Okay, it has a different flash tubes, but this is not of your concern. It's exactly the same light, same operation, same functionality. The one with the cable, the other one with the battery. The battery, super compact, fits in your back pocket. Okay, so you are, if you work as an assistant, you always have one battery in the back. If it's cold conditions, this additionally heats the battery or keeps it warm, that it has the full performance. So super, super convenient. I don't have to learn anything new because it's really the same operation. Here, no battery. Okay, Scora has no battery option. Here, the question came before, I have to move to a different power pack, and this power pack is actually called Move. I can talk about compatibility. I can use my normal lamp heads from the studio. I can use them on the Move, but without modeling light. So they are flashing, yes, but I don't see the modeling lights. The other way around, Mobiled, that is used on the Move power pack and has modeling light on the Move power pack, flashes on the Scoros, but has no modeling light. Okay, so flash-wise, everything is compatible, but modeling light-wise, we have two different worlds. Okay, so battery option is a plus for this side of the table. Portability. Yeah, it's compact. Okay, I can easily put this in a trolley bag and can, well, it's in the end, the entire system is a little heavy, but it's easy. It's still possible to carry it around. Of course, this as well. I think it's pretty kind of comparable. Maybe here we have a little bit more. The lights are smaller. The power pack is a little extra, a little bit more cable, but it's kind of comparable. The difference for me is, let's say I have to go up in the mountains and shoot a portrait of a climber somewhere on the wall. Of course, we are talking about the battery again, first of all, but as well, I can adjust the size of my setup or the equipment I carry around to the setup I'm planning with. If I want to go there with just a softbox, a small compact softbox or an umbrella that fits in my back pocket, I can take this, maybe with or without a cable, with or without a battery, and that's it. Okay, so with this, if I have a one light job, I carry this, and the camera could be helpful. Here, I can leave the two lights at home, but I still have to bring this. Okay, so there is always kind of a minimum equipment required. I cannot shrink the equipment. I always have to carry around a little bit more on this side. Okay, could be important if you know, you're sure that you don't need a second light. Okay, if you really know that, okay, I'm going to set up my para or my single softbox or even start straight on cruel, you can adjust the equipment to your planned setup. On the other side, you always have to carry a little bit more. Probably if I don't answer it, probably the question will show up. Another difference between the two setups is how they affect your budget. Of course, here we have the initial investment here is a little bit lower. And of course, on the Scoro side, we have a higher initial investment. I don't want to name any numbers here. I really want you in this situation, if you consider it, really get personal assistance and the consulting wherever you are. Ask your local broncolor dealer to assist you to write a list with the equipment that really suits your work, what you're planning to do. Remember that later on you can still go in both directions and amplify your equipment. Okay, but yes, of course, here we spend a little bit more and here we spend a little bit less initial investment. Right, so let me go one more time to have a look at the questions. Okay. Somebody still confused with the TO1 and TO5. This is probably the question I've been answering the most frequently since I work here, which means in 23 years, once a week in average. Okay, TO1 is all the light. I don't want to make the long talk, just the short version. TO1 is all the light from the first light leaving the lamp head until the last light. So it's really everything. So if I give you a TO1, 10,000th of a second, this means all the light hits the object and hits your sensor in a 10,000th of a second, bam, that's it. Okay. TO5, that's just the brightest part of the flash curve, but there's light before and there's light after TO5. So even if TO5 is super, super short, again, 10,000th of a second, but there's some light before and some light afterwards. So it's not the entire truth. It's just part of the truth. But there's light before and light after. So if I give you a 10,000th of a second TO5, you still don't know how long is my exposure. That's why we insist on talking about TO1. Compared to your cameras, if you dial on your camera a 60th of a second, you don't tell the camera, nah, a little shorter than a 30th of a second and a little longer than a 1/25th of a second. You would like to have a 60th of a second. If you dial this on the camera, you expect the camera to do this. The same requirements you can ask from your power packs and from your monolights. If I program it to flash in 10,000th of a second, I want the flash to last no longer than a 10,000th of a second. And broncolor packs do this. Okay, we give you the full truth. We tell you it lasts a 10,000th of a second, that's it. Nothing before, nothing after. If you have, let's say, if you look at different brands, they give you TO5, they tell you, oh, the fancy part of my flash curve is short as well. But what happens before and what happens afterwards, they don't tell you. Which means TO5 is useless information, TO1 is useful information because it tells you how long is your exposure. Could you talk about the difference the Scoro lamps? Yes. So good question. I said this at the beginning. I show here the two systems with 3 different lights. Pulsar G has a focusing function. So I can change the lamp head's position inside the reflector. Has no influence on the lighting when I use it in a softbox or in a para, but it has a big influence on the light distribution when I talk about open reflectors. Unilight has no such function. So the position in a Unilight is given. It's there. It's in the best possible position. We talk about the light shapers and the physics of reflectors in a later seminar, but here the position of the light is given. And then, of course, this is just representing effect lamps. It's because it's my favorite baby. It's the Pico light, and but of course I could have had here as well a ring flash or a light bar or whatever. Just illustrating that effect lamps are can be connected to a Scoro. But most of the time, whenever I work with softboxes, I work rather with Unilights or Pulsar G lights. Okay, transmitters. Yes, they all are, both systems of course are compatible with the same transmitters. Right now we are in the 2nd generation of RFS, radio frequency system, RFS 2. Still in use, even in my studio, is 2.1 because I can put it on any camera I want. 2.1 has just a middle contact in the hot shoe, so it works on my Hasselblad, it works on my Nikon, on my Canon, on my Sony, on my Fuji, on my mama, everything. But no HS triggering, no high-speed synchronization. And for this, we have the RFS 2.2 as well. Everything is can be synchronized with RFS 2.2, but now it's camera sensitive. Okay, so I have to use, when I work with a Canon, I have to use the 2.2C, or when I use the Nikon, 2.2N, because this enables to work with extremely short shutter speeds and flash, so high-speed synchronization. Okay, good. So here it's empty, which means it's time to wrap it up. So you have pretty much all the information, all the questions you have to ask yourself to come up with the right choice. The right choice does not indicate that there is a wrong choice. Going for broncolor is the good choice. Okay. It's super long lasting. It will, if you treat this more or less nicely, it will accompany you during your entire career. Okay. Broncolor never fails on you. Okay. I use these guys on a daily basis. They never fail on me. Okay. So it's professional tools. Even if you start with this and this is, I should have gone with the Scoros, you update later on. Okay, or you start with a Scoro and they said, I just need one more light for the background, you combine it with this. So no matter how you start, it's the right choice to start with the best lighting system in the world. Yeah, it's quite clear, my opinion on this point, I guess. Yes, exactly. Oh, and I was just talking about compatibility regarding power packs and monolights. In 2 weeks, we will talk about LEDs here, LED lighting. There is, beside the flash equipment, there's as well a continuous light equipment, LED. They look pretty much the same like the Zeros, like the Zeros, and they have the same bayonet. So you can even add up and go in direction of continuous light system. Again, same light shapers because it has the same bayonet. So everything you invest in light shapers, in any equipment is never lost because you use it anyway during your professional development in the following years. You will use it again and again and again. It will never fail on you. Next week, same time, same place, I will have 2 setups ready regarding e-commerce photography. One setup with Zeros, one setup on the Scoros. Still looking around for a model, but we will have here a e-commerce fashion setup. I will guide you through the setups, how we can have a light that works on however she stands, however she moves, whatever she wears, and how we can get cameras, how we can get pictures out of camera that can go online in no time. Good, so this is it. No questions there. Once more, this was just an overview. Oh, no, of course. The overview we didn't do. So let me summarize it. Okay. So what are the similarities? I can read it again, but I think you can read this yourself. So there's a lot of special functions that can be programmed in both systems. Also, monolights on the left, power packs on the left, like delay, interval, free mask, alternate. Both work with the broncontrol app. Both have the same triggering system. Both have the amazing light control thanks to the flash cutoff, or we call it ECTC. Extremely constant color temperature over the entire power range, and you can combine monoblocks with power packs and power packs with monolights. Okay, so these are the similarities. There you don't have to make any choice yet. Now we talk about the differences. Here I have 2 slides. The light shapers, I think that's for me the most important thing because there are no limitations. That's such a nice word, no limitations on the Scoro. Okay, everything that you find on the broncolor website is compatible if you decide to go for power packs. And you've seen that if you want to go for special lamps, effect lamps, that maybe there are some limitations if you work on the Zeros L side. Max flash energy. So if you talk about one light only, we have a 2 f-stops range. If we talk about the 2 systems, we have a difference of 1/3 of an f-stop in between, also if you compare 3 lights with 3 lights. Charging time can be important, must not be important. So obviously it's a lot longer on the Zeros side. Power range, so the creative possibilities to choose my aperture is quite similar. It's actually 1 f-stop difference between the 2 systems. Asymmetry, actually, as I said, the Zeros don't even have an asymmetry because they are completely independent units. Stroboscopic effects, because we need more time to recycle a monolight, the stroboscopic effects are somewhat slower on the monolight side. Speed function, I explained it before, speed function on the power packs is the color corrected, while on the Monolights it's a tier 1 minimum. Last, can I save settings? Yes, you can do it on the pack. You cannot do this on the Scoro. Durability, yeah. Advanced durability, as I said, the way I work, Zeros is by far advanced enough. I never broke one. Okay, just for stupidity, when I changed the softbox button, that if I would have handled it correctly, I never broke a Zeros. Multilingual menu and help function, yes, on the Scoro. No, on the Zeros. If I want to know something, I have to consult the internet or the manual. Setup size, absolutely unlimited with the Zeros. The light I put far away, I use there most probably a battery operated one. Portability, as I said, the equipment can be adjusted to my planned setup, so I can bring just one light with a Zeros. However, on the Scoro side, I always have to bring the power pack, and the initial investment is somewhat lower if you go for Zeros, and somewhat higher or upper initial investment if you go for the power packs. Good. So last word. Oh, question. Will the color temperature be the same on basic Zeros and Zeros S Monolights? No. Zeros S, also the Zeros without the S anyway is not sold anymore, but we had this at the very beginning. Zeros has no color temperature control, so Zeros without the S is only adjusting the power with the voltage. So first of all, the power range is limited, and if you go down with the power, we have a little bit of a color temperature shift towards red in this situation. So yes, Zeros S is fully color corrected. That's as well the Zeros S and Zeros L are the only ones we are selling these days. But the very early Zeros without any letter behind it is not fully color corrected and has as well a limited power range. Okay, so these were now a lot of aspects you have to ask yourself. However, it's not a personal consulting. So please call your local dealer, and we make this very, very easy for you, because just after finishing the webinar, you will be asked to answer a couple of questions regarding the quality of the webinar, and as well what kind of webinars you would like to see in the future, and you will be asked if you would like to be contacted by a local dealer. So if you still have a question regarding what I said today, or if you would like to have a very personal consulting about what's the best equipment to start with or to extend your equipment, just mark yes, and then our local dealer will contact you and find out the best possible solution for you. Anyway, if you go for broncolor, it's anyway already the best possible solution. And with this, I would like to thank you very much for the time, and yeah, hope to see you again 1 week from now, again talking a little bit about Zeros and power packs in e-commerce photography. Thank you very much for your time. All the best. Bye-bye.